So I don't have anything to prove to people. I don't have like an agenda or anything like that. I'm not calling myself a prophet or anything like that. However, people that have followed my videos for a minute know that I was throwing around this term called quarantine, and I started throwing it around in the 2012, early 2012, when I first came into the public with these particular teachings. I was throwing around this particular term called quarantine, and at that time, I mean, like it definitely got a good response. However, most people thought that it was never going to be made public and they were going to never, full disclosure was never going to happen. And that was the whole reason behind me even throwing out the term quarantine, because it was really linked into understanding full disclosure. And full disclosure kind of just goes into a time where the media and the different public outlets, the news and what may have you, it's going to come a time where they go ahead and reveal the truth about different extraterrestrial alien groups to the masses of the people. So I made videos talking about this. I mean, the proof is right here on my channel, like years back. Well, now here it is. Everybody's emailing me like, "Yo, why don't you do a video on Ebola? You're not addressing the issues that are going on today in society, and what happened with that." And I'm like, man, because I'm so deep into my astrological studies, a lot of times I have to kind of remember to kind of bring the message down, even though everything comes from above, because like they say, as above so below. But sometimes I have to remember, I got to kind of bring this message down and make it relevant to the average everyday Joe Blow that don't know nothing about a Fucus or Taurus or Leo, but they turned on the news and they see something talking about they're going to be quarantining people that may possibly have Ebola and things of that nature. So I definitely take it upon myself to go ahead and at least give my views and my take on the whole quarantine thing and the whole Ebola thing. And you guys are pretty much, that have been following my videos, know that I'm going to point the finger at the aliens, because that's the easiest thing to do, but really that is the thing to do, because of the fact that I told you the whole concept of a quarantine came from these different extraterrestrial groups, which at different phases in our evolution, they put us up under different quarantines. And they ban us from sometimes different parts of the earth, and they ban us from, mainly from, a lot of the quarantine is more about knowledge. And they ban you from having certain knowledge about what's really going on. So I'm going to drop a couple of seeds. I'm sure a lot of the extraterrestrial groups out there, some of them that may have an agenda that's dealing with trying to hide the truth from humanity and all that, they're not going to like this, because I'm going to kind of spill the beans on something that I don't think anybody is addressing. They may be addressing it, but I'm definitely going to address it in this video. And a lot of groups aren't going to like that. A lot of people are going to call it a conspiracy, and say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, or I'm just some nut or some quack up here that sits around and watches too much sci-fi. And then you're going to have that group that's going to look into what I'm saying. And every time I reveal things about this, you're going to notice that more comes out. Just like I started talking about the quarantine, and at first nobody was even talking about aliens on TV. Even as early as 2012, it was still considered crazy to speak on even terms like that in the media. But now you got all this stuff about quarantine coming up. So what is it all about? Well, what it's really all about is that it's tied into, the whole Ebola thing is tied into an alien agenda that goes back thousands of years. And the only thing they're doing is just reintroducing this agenda to humanity. And this agenda, essentially what it goes into is that there is a specific group of extraterrestrials that mostly come from the Canis Minor star constellation. And this group of extraterrestrials, their home, their home is dying. Their star, which is the Sirius B star, which is located in the Canis Minor star constellation, that star is burning out. Like, it's totally burning out. So what's happening with that star burning out is that, of course, if a sun has ran out of fuel, then that means that there is no more energy left in that particular region or that particular solar system. And even though it's three stars, you have in that area, you have Betelgeuse, you have Sirius B, and then you have another star called Procyon B. There's a Procyon A and a Procyon B. So you have 3 different stars in that particular region, but 2 of those suns are burning out. The Series B sun is burning out, as well as the Procyon sun is burning out. And beings that are familiar with this particular area know that anybody that really comes from Sirius, or if your star ancestor traces back to Sirius, of which you would have to get a natal reading to figure out. And once you get the natal reading, I can tell you in the email, or I'll have my assistant tell you in the email what star constellation you come from. But don't start shooting me emails telling me to do it now. I mean, if you ordered a natal reading before, I mean, I hate to kind of digress and talk about this because this is important, the point I'm making. But if you ordered a natal reading before, don't start shooting us emails trying to get me to say it now, because, I mean, maybe you just have to, like, order the information another way, or we can set up something to where you can ask a question through email, and that can be your question, because I do have a service where you ask a question through email, and that could be your question. And that's just because I have a system of checks and balances that I must stick to, as being a businessman. But anyway, going back to my point, so you have these 2 different star constellations or these 2 different suns, I should say, that are burning out. Now, in the midst of that, you still have another sun, which is Betelgeuse. That sun still has fuel in it. So really, the beings that live in Sirius, in Canis Minor, is what it really is. These beings are losing homes. A lot of these beings, they need the energy and the different minerals and things like that coming from having 3 suns, and they can't survive off of just 1 sun. I mean, you do have, and it's already cold there. So these beings, that's what they're not telling you. And they talk about the Anunnaki came looking for gold and all of that. That was due to a war that was going on prior to them even coming to this planet. And in that war, the Anunnaki, most of them are from this particular region that I'm telling you about. Because there's different alien groups, and I'm going to do a part 1, 2, 3, and 4 to this topic to kind of go more deeper into this quarantine thing, because it's pretty serious. But right now, I'm just going to talk about Canis Minor and another star constellation in a minute. So there's already, like, essentially beings that have been coming here. And when you read about these different stories about the Anunnaki, most of them come from Canis Minor, the Anunnaki stories. Now, there's other alien-type stories, but this is specifically talking about the story about the Anunnaki that Zachary Sitchin and other writers were famous with, or I should say infamous, in making popular. These particular writers talked about how this group came looking for gold, essentially, and they went into South Africa, or Zimbabwe at the time, and they went mining for gold. And this is why the whole star constellation is called Minor, Canis Minor, because they were miners. These group of people that came here, they were scientists. And I'm going to tell you more about the Canis Minor star constellation in a minute, some like metaphysics behind it and things that you may not know. So that particular constellation has already been dying out. That's been the agenda. So the whole thing about enslaving people, what they've been coming here and doing is that they've been coming here to this planet playing God for a long period of time. And they've been trying to figure out, like, how can we, because they're immigrants. So they're trying to figure out how can we come to this particular planet and control the life on this planet and integrate ourselves in so that we can have a home here on this planet, because our planet is going extinct. And that's what a lot of people that say that, I'm Anunnaki, or I'm from, or I'm saying, or I'm from Sirius B, because a lot of people that study the Egyptian culture, they say that a lot of the Egyptian deities like Osiris and them were supposed to be from Sirius B. And you got to ask yourself, if they had all this knowledge, why did they come to this planet? That's because their planet was dying out even back then. So when you read about the stories about the manufacturing of Homo sapiens, you got to realize that stuff was going on back then. So why am I saying this? Because I know I've told this story a million times, but what I haven't said is this, and I'm about to go into a point that's relevant to now. What I'm saying is that, so now you bring it up to this Ebola scare, it's the same thing. See, they had you up under sleep and up under a spell for a period of time where you didn't even know aliens exist, and you didn't know that you had life walking amongst you that was literally superior to you. You have beings that are like Superman walking amongst you, that have powers that can make it rain in any split second, that have powers to be able to tell you about what's going on with you all the way back to your childhood, that have all kind of powers to jump through time and to stop time and all kind of shit. You got people right now walking amongst you with these powers, and you asleep to it for the past 6,000 years, but over this past 1,000 years, people have been waking back up to it again. And right now, this time is very intense. So remember I told you the quarantine was going to be lifted. I gave you a date. You got to go back and watch those videos on the quarantine. Maybe I'll do a playlist that's just documenting all the information I talk about when it comes to quarantine. That's probably what I'll do. And what you could do with that is that you could watch those videos and I give you different dates. Those dates are passed, so the quarantine is lifted. So what they had to do is that they are amongst you again. That's what I'm saying. Aliens are amongst you again, but you know what they did? You know what the Ebola is really talking about? And people don't even know the Ebola is talking about you have humans walking amongst you that are literally computers. They're machines. They don't need to sleep. They rarely need to eat, and if they do eat, you notice they can eat junk food or just about anything, and that's because they're making these computerized humanoids or Homo sapiens in a way to where they can consume anything and turn it into the type of nutrients they want it to turn into. So they essentially can be healthy off of eating just about anything. Why? Because they're making these Ebola type Homo sapiens to kind of replace you. The machines are literally taking over. What's been going, what they talked about in the Matrix and all of that is really playing out. That's what the Ebola scare is really about. And they keep calling it a scare is because I'll say this, and I'm probably, even by saying this, going a little bit too far, so I'm sure they'll have me up under surveillance. But there's even certain popular people and certain celebrities and things like that you may think that's that real celebrity, but that celebrity done got smart and done went and hooked up with these extraterrestrial groups and done paid into some agenda to where they done pretty much cloned themselves as a machine though. And that machine is not like a clone, because a clone is still life. You know, because you got to tap into the cells and stuff like that to do cloning. This is like literally like a machine or a mechanical version of a human, like the Terminator. Remember, you had different versions of Terminator. Well, that's what's going on right now. The Ebola scare, and it ties into gold too. It gets deep. And so who is this group of beings that's doing this? It's the beings that come from Canis Minor that are responsible for this. How do they look? Some of them look humanoid. Some of them look reptilian, but they're not going to come and show their physical selves. They're smarter than that. They're smarter than that. They was like, let's go ahead and release these robots, or these robotoids is what some people call them. And I've talked about them, these androids, these different type of machines, and let's get this artificial intelligence, if you will, and let's release this. And let's, to a point where even your people that you're looking up to that's winning awards and shit like that, these people ain't human. These people, a lot of them on the news, I've talked about this in different videos, these people aren't human. And you think they are. These are machines. And it's like, well, how can you prove that? How can you prove it's a human? You prove to me it's a human. I'm going to ask for just as much proof from you for you to prove to me that it's a human as you want proof for me to prove that they're not. Because you don't have any proof whatsoever to prove that these are not humans. You never sat there and saw it sleep. You never had sex with it. You don't even know if you land in bed with one of them, because they could be acting like they sleep and really they're not. They're just sitting up all night because they're a machine. They don't need to sleep and they know how to fake it. They were built to do this. So you think they're not amongst you, but most of them are more like rich and successful. So like if you're from the hood or if you're from somewhere that's lower income, you're not probably interacting with these things. You're interacting with these things if you in the upper echelons of society. People that's like actors and celebrities and singers, they know what I'm talking about. You interacting with them there, and they don't care. See, the thing is that you got beings from Canis Minor behind it. A lot of them are humanoid looking. Some of them are melanated. Some of them are pale. You know, some of them are reptilian looking. Regardless to how they look, it doesn't matter, because they're creating artificial life and putting it amongst you to represent them. And they have a whole nother set of laws to where they got GPS inside of a lot of these things, mechanical parts. A lot of people that aren't necessarily totally robotoids. Another thing that's going on too is they're putting mechanical parts in people. This is a part of the agenda. The Borg agenda is what they call it. And they talk about how in the Borg agenda it's going to be certain people that are going to have robotic parts inside of them and things of that nature, and they're not going to be human. So this is the real ET agenda. See, the ET agenda, you was waiting to see like Godzilla, or you was waiting to see something that looked like the Scarecrow off the Wizard of Oz. You was waiting to see something that looks more like the alien character, or like the Predator or something like that. When the aliens are 50 times smarter than you, and they know everything about this planet in and out because they created you as a part of this agenda. That's right. Homo sapiens themselves was once a part of the alien agenda. We are experiments that went out of whack. So now they got to come out because they need to come back out and they need to lift the quarantine. So you might say, well, if they lifted the quarantine, how come they're quarantining people that have Ebola? The people that they're saying that have Ebola are really people that have robotic parts in them. People that are essentially what they would consider an alien. These are the real people that they're saying have Ebola. There's no virus called Ebola from my research. The virus of Ebola is dealing with people that it's an alien, Borg, Robotoid, Android type of agenda. And it's deep because it goes into gold. And the reason why it goes into gold is because if you notice the Anunnaki, when they first came here, they came here looking for what? Gold, according to the stories. And this is because they were miners. They come from Canis Minor. And the color and the aura of Canis Minor just happens to be yellow, which is very key. And yellow resonates with the third chakra, or the willpower chakra, which is located up under the heart and located above the navel. So this is more like what's called your solar plexus, in your solar plexus area. So these are beings that are miners and scientists and mineralists, and the whole agenda of people becoming vegan and all of that goes back to this group of extraterrestrials. Because this group of extraterrestrials, they were the ones that created all the different experiments and all the different, I guess you can say, so-called man-made experiments and laboratory experiments all come from this group. But their weaknesses, they're probably the most intelligent group of extraterrestrials. We talk about intelligent life that we know about, that we've had interaction with. But their weakness is that they don't have a home. And that's what they don't want to tell you. So they don't have anywhere to go. So then you got another group of them that are coming from Perseus. And Perseus is a part of the, and I've done videos on the Pleiades star constellation. So Perseus is where another group of these beings are coming from. And Perseus, this goes into your heroes, like your superheroes, people with superpowers. So this is another group of people. Many people have saw the movie called Jumpers. If you haven't, I suggest that you watch it. It's a really good movie. It's a movie called Jumpers. There's another movie, I forgot what it's called, but it's similar to Jumpers. But in these movies, like these teenagers and stuff, right, and they got these different superpowers, and they're able to like jump through time, and some of them are able, you notice a lot of these movies were coming out where like people had the power of the hands, and their hands were like energy vessels, and they could just put their hands on you and cause an explosion, or they could put their hands on something and stop time with their hands or whatever. And this is all coming from beings that come from this constellation called Perseus. And this particular constellation, again, resonates with yellow. So this is like a group of beings that teamed up, and they came up with this agenda long time ago. Why do you think they was making movies about robots and things like that, even back as early as in the 50s and 60s, about machines and robots taking over? And you've been noticing these alien type of movies, like even the movie E.T. itself had all kind of robots. The movie Star Wars had all kind of robots and machines, and this is letting you know that they've been already had an agenda to kind of like replace you with robots, and they were letting you know 50, 60, 70 years ago, before the Philadelphia experiment. Now that the Philadelphia experiment is over with, which I have another video talking about, and you need to go back to that video and then you'll be able to follow me where I'm going with this. But since the Philadelphia experiment is over with, we're already in the time warp. So now they just pretty much introducing stuff to you and in the public as fate, or as, I guess you could say, so-called Father Time wants them to. So Father Time may want them to introduce the concept of, say for instance, the concept of the Borg agenda. They may have wanted them to start that in 2005. And then in 2025, they're going to have it to where you're going to be interacting with Borgs to do business with. Like 2025, it may get to a point where you go to the grocery store, there's only one human there, and that human is in some room somewhere looking down on you like the Wizard of Oz or something, and you dealing with, as far as the cashiers, all of them are just strictly machines. They're going to make the machines look more and more human friendly. So this is what the Ebola is about. And right now there's like very successful people that are disappearing and replacing themselves with a machine. Because why? Because the machine doesn't necessarily have to do certain things that a human would do. A machine doesn't have to be accountable for certain laws that a human would have to be accountable for. And not only that, but a machine can be terminated or destroyed without sacrificing human life. So that's what this is about. That's what the whole Ebola scare is about. As far as the goal ties into a really deep agenda because there's a lot of healing effects that we can experience. Like people always ask me, am I a believer in monatomic gold? I'm a firm supporter of that. I believe in monatomic gold is great. I believe really essentially your body makes gold naturally. And you secrete gold all the time. So there's nothing wrong with the consumption of gold. I'm totally for that. And to add on to that, I believe that there's a lot of other healing modalities that gold could be used for. Gold is a really good method of healing a lot of different aspects of human life. So I'm definitely a firm believer in that. But my point about bringing it up is that the Anunnaki knows that as well. So, and these beings that are behind this agenda of the quarantine. So they got people on the news pitching out the quarantine agenda simply to kind of get you seasoned for it, because the quarantine is going to be so many different levels to it. And the goal is to really wipe out from the surface now. They're going to let humans live, but they really want to wipe out human life from the surface. This is why you got all these weather storms going on. You got Astro. There's some storm called Astro something that just hit North America pretty hard, and it was like, I think like some crazy shit like 4 feet of snow up in like Buffalo. And you know what I'm saying? And it's like kind of early in the winter or whatever. You got all of this going on because this is an extraterrestrial agenda. See, if a machine, you could design a machine to where it can exist in negative 40-degree weather. See what I'm saying? So these aliens, they're getting to the point they're like, man, we don't really need humans as slaves anymore. And the thing is, this is why they're letting people teach the consciousness and stuff like that more openly, because they want to see as many humans get saved as possibly can. But the thing is that you're going to have to pretty much be on the conscious agenda if you want to get saved. You know what I'm saying? From what's getting ready to happen. You talk about Jesus coming back and saving you. Jesus is dealing with the third eye and the opening of the third eye and the healing and being able to heal yourself on all your different chakra levels, and then being able to connect back with your star heritage and being able to know yourself enough to where you know how much money you want to make, you know type of where you want to live, and you know how to build that place that you want to live in. You know how to grow the food that you want to eat. You know how to produce the type of clothing that you want to wear. That's really what it's going to take, you know, for us to make it. And we can still keep our knowledge of the internet and our, you know, scientific knowledge and all of that. But the thing is that it's going to definitely have to be a shift and a change in the paradigm. So that's what this whole alien ET thing is about. And the gold, again, can be used in economics. If we were to go back on the gold standard, it would shift. It would take humans out of debt, which would end slavery. So on one level, they want to end human slavery. This is why they established the UN. There's aliens behind that too. Because they want to end human slavery. And the UN is going to be responsible for helping and aiding that process. But not only that, but they want to they want humans to be more intelligent enough to where they invent a machine or invent something to represent them in this new economy or this new market. So I'm giving you a hint of what your life purpose should be. Your life purpose should be is to whatever you want to do, you should try to invent some type of machine or some type of a process, some type of a system or network even. It doesn't have to be mechanical, but some type of a network that represents you without you physically being there, to where you could be just like the Anunnaki and be somewhere in the underworld, living in the underworld, but then you're manipulating events on the surface. This is what, when we talk about the humans being initiated into the occult, and we talk about how eventually the occult is going to be the norm or the doctrine that humanity has to embrace if they want to make it into this new energy and this new age of Aquarius. Well, this is what the occult is all about, beloved. The age of Aquarius represents inventions. It represents the future. It represents quantum physics. It represents being able to stand here in the now, and from the now be able to judge what the future would be like, predicated upon the now. So then when you get information like that, you can come back, because now you've stood in the now, but then you've traveled to the future while standing in the now. So then when you come back from your journey to the future, you can come back with the solutions and inventions that it's going to take to change and shift this paradigm, to continue to shift it. Because everybody keeps saying, well, we already made the shift. 2012 is over, so we're here, and this is the new world. This is not the new world, because we have to continue to shift it. You see, so there's a lot that I could say. I want to talk about other constellations and how they represent, because there's more to it than this. The story is deep. I'm just telling you about, and I'll shut down after saying this, I'm just telling you about the agenda that the beings from Canis Minor got, which is like the reptilians and the humanoid-looking beings and beings from like Pleiades and all of that, and the superheroes and all of them. But I haven't even went into like beings from like Fucus and what their agenda is during this time, because each group has a different agenda. There's at least 7 other groups I got to cover. So this lifting of the quarantine thing is going to be deep. I hope you guys continue to subscribe and stay tuned as I continue to release more and more of these videos, and then in the process of that, I'm going to be releasing a lot more videos, of course, on astrology. I got to keep you updated with that as well. So, but this is what really astrology is all about. You see, astrology is really all about teaching you not only about what your star sign is, but teaching you what's going on in the stars. Because in the stars, you're dealing with the future, the past, and the present. Just studying the stars. So that's what decoding the stars is all about. And a real astrologer is one who studies the stars, not just the planets. You got to understand many different constellations. There's over 70-something different constellations, and each of those constellations, there's galaxies within that. And then you got ether levels located in each star constellation. And you got some star constellations that vibrate with certain ether levels. Like, for instance, Perseus and Canis Minor, this represents the yellow ethers. Like some of you heard of like the yellow ethers, the blue ethers, the green ethers. There's different ethers, the white ethers. Well, Perseus and Canis Minor, this is all dealing with yellow ether information. So that's the theme of this particular video. However, there's other colors and there's other agendas, and they're all simultaneously going on the planet. And why do you need to know this? Because you need to see how, if you're going to come up with your own agenda, you need to first study the agendas of all the different extraterrestrial groups that are going on amongst you. This is the scientific, more so the scientific agenda. There's a blood agenda on another level. There's a slavery agenda. So it goes on and on and on. I hope you guys, that kind of like answered your questions, for the emails I've been getting about my views on the quarantine and what it means and why this term is being thrown around in the media right now. So that was a really great question. Definitely want to send a shout out to my brother Jones. I'll just say his last name. Shout out to my brother Jones for that. So thank you for listening to this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you subscribe to my channel. Until we meet again, leave you in namaste. Y'all back. Hotep. 1.